Why does every gang in LA hate the Inglewood family? This video is from Swamp Stories. Don't copyright me.
In my most dangerous cities list, I mentioned that Inglewood is one of the safest cities in America and has been for a little while. Of course, this did not please the people from Inglewood, which is always a backwards train of thought. But it's actually true. When you roll around Inglewood, you don't sense danger or even poverty. It almost feels like any suburban city, especially if you're coming from South Central. But one thing that's important to note is that Inglewood is a changed city, nothing like it once was. In fact, we're not too far removed from one of the worst rivalries in Southern California history. But wait, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We take a time machine way back to the 1970s. For those who don't know, Inglewood was built as a suburb of Los Angeles. It was designed for middle-class families who wanted to stay away from the madness of LA. However, it is located right next door. Regardless, it's always had its own separate identity. Unlike suburbs of Atlanta who are gonna claim they're from Atlanta, Inglewood is just gonna claim Inglewood. That's because it's extremely prideful. Let me explain the history. In 1960, Inglewood had a grand total of 29 African American residents. That's because most of the city was exclusive to non-African Americans, and that was by law.
No niggas allowed.
In 1965, the ruling was struck down and Inglewood was now available to everyone. However, there was still a major issue. Banks would only provide loans for African Americans to stay on the east side, not the west. Essentially, starting in 1965, a bunch of South Central families moved to the east side of Inglewood. They thought that this would be an escape, but it actually wasn't. Their kids were sent to underfunded schools, jobs were not hiring, and you know the rest. Long story short, the east side of Inglewood started getting rough. A lot of young men sought ways to make quick money, and in the process, a large gang formed on the east side. This would be known as the Chain Gang. They had two territories, the first being from Manchester down to Century Boulevard, and the second being the large Morningside Park neighborhood. The reason they formed is because of South Central members who would come over to Inglewood thinking it's sweet. Specifically, Tookie Williams' WESTSIDE CRIPS were notorious for this. So in response, the Chain Gang muscled up.
Got their weight up.
Despite being in a different city, the Chain Gang's territory was right across from their bitter rivals. And the theme of the 1970s was Inglewood's Chain Gang versus South Central's WESTSIDE CRIPS. Well, fast forward to the 1980s and a major name change took place on both sides. As they expanded to larger territory in Inglewood and membership grew to 700, they wanted a new identity. Now known as the Inglewood family. It sounded better, and most importantly, it showed that they were a family after all. And by this time, Inglewood was no longer South Central's soft suburban cousin. Inglewood family was real factors in LA, and this came with a heavy price. Of course, their next-door neighbors were the infamous A-Tray gangsters. Starting in the mid-1970s, the two sides began bumping heads. For a year and some change, scuffles occurred between the two sides, but each of them were preoccupied with other beefs in the region. However, on July 24th, 1977, that would all change. It's a blazing hot summer day and everyone is outside. For Inglewood family, they happen to be at Centinela Park. This is where they tend to hang out on nice days and have barbecues. Well, the night before at a party, A-Tray and Inglewood family got into it once again. And this time, A-Tray wanted to send a message. So a group of 4 members get in the car and head over to Centinela Park. They get out of the car and approach a small group of Inglewood members. The two groups start fighting, and that's when an A-Tray member takes it to another level. Sadly, the leader of the Inglewood family would not make it. Unfortunately, the A-Tray members would head back to Centinela Park the next day. But this time, the Inglewood family members were ready. The story goes that 2 A-Tray members passed away. From here on, the A-Tray versus Inglewood family rivalry would be one of the worst in Los Angeles history. Because they border each other, life became extremely difficult on both sides. But not only did they rival A-Tray, they also became bitter rivals with the infamous infamous Rolling 60s. This would end up being one of their worst rivalries, to the point where anyone wearing the wrong color could be a target. In the 2000s, Inglewood family became notorious for random incidents, and this made them the most hated by far. Everyone knew that they were liable to do anything to anyone. They didn't care if you were affiliated or not. Inglewood family was known to ask questions after. November 18th, 2007. A man named Robert Jones is cruising down Crenshaw Boulevard with 3 friends in a Chevy Tahoe. Jones and his friends are not members, but they have some associations with the Rolling 60s. Well, Jones pulls over to the CVS on the corner of Crenshaw and Coliseum. Forever, this has been known as a Rolling 60s hangout spot where things go down on the regular. Just like any day, Jones heads into the CVS while his friends stay in the car. As he heads for the entrance, he notices a black Hummer parked out front, and from the car, 2 men hop out and approach Jones. They ask him, "Where you from?" to which he replies, "Nowhere." Then they ask, "Are you Rolling 60s?" to which he replies, "No." One of the men named Kevin Thompson does not believe him. Kevin happens to be an Inglewood family member looking to gain a reputation. Kevin makes a horrible decision. Later that night, Kevin Thompson would be pulled over in the same black Hummer. The friends of Robert Jones would testify against Kevin Thompson, and now he's currently doing life. Again, this is another example of why everyone grew to dislike the Inglewood family. However, they did have a couple of close bonds. First, you have the Crenshaw Mafia, who border them at multiple locations. Since the start, this has definitely been their closest ally. Next, you have the infamous Mad Swans, located on the east side of South Central. And finally, Inglewood family was allied with the Denver Lanes, located all the way below the Hoovers. Their territory stretches from 104th to 120th in South Central. For decades, the two sections were best friends, and they rolled together against their common rivals. However, everything would change in 2013. February 9th, 2013. It's a Saturday night and Inglewood family and Denver Lanes meet up at the Normandy Casino. There, after a couple hours of drinks and fun, an argument takes place. Allegedly, an Inglewood member gets into it with a Denver Lane named Trayvon Odom. The argument gets disrespectful and both sides head their separate ways from the casino. This does not mean it's over, as Inglewood members head over to the Denver Lanes area 4 hours later. They spin around the area until they locate Trayvon on the corner of 110th and Denver Ave. And without hesitation, this moment changed everything. The 30-some years of alliance and friendship down the drain. All of the good times together now mean absolutely nothing. This is yet another example of why everyone despises the Inglewood family. And the Denver Lanes felt this exact way. So 3 days later, they would seek revenge in a major way. Because they were allied for so long, everyone knew where each other lived. And on February 12th, the Denver Lanes wanted to prove a message. At this point, the Inglewood families were led by a man named Clarence Gant Sr., also known as Big KLAYRON. At this point, he was 46 years old, meaning he was triple OG status. So this is who the Denver Lanes wanted. He resided in Compton's Willowbrook neighborhood, and this is where they located him. On the afternoon of February 12th, Big KLAYRON passed away. Now the rivalry was official. In the span of 3 days, a member on each side was gone. And from here, it would only get worse. In the next week, 3 more unidentified members would pass away. The former friends were now at each other's necks on a daily basis. And this prompted a rapper named Inglewood Monster to release a song called Supposed to Be Bloods. On the song, Monster talks about how he doesn't condone the beef between the two sides and how they need to come together. And this begs a good question. Is there a point where beef is not recoverable? If both sides have lost beloved members, how can they throw the white flag? Well, this song was an attempt to do so, and it included features from Damu rapper June Dog.
Shout out to them for trying to do something positive in the community and bring the Bloods together. At least unite in ignorance, then be separated in ignorance and beget more and more ignorance, right?
Avenue Pyru member Red Drum 781 and Brims member G Nut. The hope was to end all of the red-on-red rivalries in LA, but this was kind of a tough task, because at this point everyone hated the Inglewood family except for a couple sections in Inglewood and the Stink Team. Yes, you heard that correctly. Draco the Ruler and the Stink Team were allied with the Inglewood family. They were often seen together, and Inglewood rapper Scheme was featured on Draco's early tapes. In fact, in June of 2016, Draco the Ruler and Inglewood rapper Rucci collaborated on a song. Together, everyone was going up. But then, in typical Inglewood fashion, it would all fall apart. It started off with the infamous December 11th, 2016 incident. This is when the Stink Team allegedly claimed the life of Inglewood family's Davion Gregory. For years, Draco the Ruler fought this case in trial, which he eventually beat after 2 times. To this day, no one knows why this incident occurred or why the beef started. But now, after losing a top member, the Inglewood family cut off their old friends. Now, the Stink Team was added to their long list of rivals. During the years that Draco was locked up, some Inglewood rappers would make some noise. Rucci would drop hit songs like Light It Up and Functions in the Hood. These would solidify him as a staple in LA rap. After him, a rapper named CHIKE would drop some hit songs as well. The controversy around his name is that he joined the set at 25. In the LA street world, this is seen as extremely corny. And this is something that Draco the Ruler used to diss Inglewood family. CHIKE would respond to Draco with a song called Lil Stink Stink, which prompted Draco the Ruler to drop the infamous Ingleweird. In the song, he referred to Inglewood as the suburbs. And that brings me to my next topic. Today, Inglewood itself is no longer dangerous, like not even remotely dangerous. And of course, this is an amazing thing. However, it has come with a cost. Let me explain. Inglewood is massively gentrified, especially with the construction.
Man, let's clap it up for gentrification, man. Get all the ignorant stuff up out of there. Listen, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Black people mess stuff up. White people come. They raise the property value. They put highways over areas. You know, they turn project housing into a mall. That's what they do. They move white people in who are not going to kill and shoot each other. I don't feel sorry for this happening. Just like I don't feel sorry for it happening in New York and the area where I come from. It's happening right now. They remodeling everything. It's a big glass courthouse. Hey, man. But I did see a whole lot of parallels to the YGs, Young Gunners, out of the Bronx. Started out small, ended up getting a lot of notoriety. Ended up pretty much having beef with everyone who is not YG, but also they got beef with other YGs, you know, which is called 1090 YG. Or, you know what I'm saying, 1090 Gunners, or another version of it, which would be EBK, Everybody Killers. You know, there's a lot of stuff like that going on. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Like, shit, come subscribe. Peace.